Yeah, I know it's efficient, but there's no win condition.
What are you doing there, Joe?
Oh, well, so you know the new Yu-Gi-Oh archetype is called Marincess. So I figured I would ask an expert how to build it.
That's the joke you're going with. That it's a fish.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's marine, there's like a...
That's the best you got.
You think this is good enough for the video?
Absolutely not.
Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. Today is a momentous day. After being chained to the bloated, decrepit corpse of Trickstar for nearly 2 years now, they've finally released another archetype for the only well-written character in Vrains, Aoi Zaizen. Aoi's what? Oh yeah, Rudy Giuliani, like I'm gonna believe some rando on the internet over the intuition of an individual with an English degree. I'm pretty sure I know how to pronounce her name. Anyway, let's see what we've cooked up for Marincess. So here's the list, and okay, please don't crucify me for playing 12 hand traps. I've been attached to Trickstar so long that I've kind of lost the capacity to build anything else. As always, I'll give you background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. So firstly, for those of you that don't know, Marincess is the second archetype Aoi Zaizen has picked up in Vrains. After sporting an impressive, 0% win rate with the famously underpowered Trickstar archetype in a format with 4,000 life points, Oi creates a new deck with an extremely efficient setup engine. Marincess is an archetype in its infancy, in more ways than one, but the few cards it does have are honestly extremely playable. Their linear plan involves repeatedly recurring Marincess Seahorse to make a 0-card Link 3, so like Trickstar, they're exceptionally well equipped to slot a small engine into a deck filled with good stuff. Like Salamangreat, they're extremely adept at playing through hate and have extremely powerful payoffs like Marincess Wave, and similarly strong searchers like Cynet Optimize. These cards were so radically consistent in the anime, even Garlic Aeoli was able to be Bowman's younger brother after Lightning told Bowman it was Haru's turn to duel a protagonist. Now we're playing this deck completely differently than most of the Day 1 profiles you're going to be seeing on YouTube. Rest assured, I have tried most of the archetypes I know you're already feverishly typing in the comments about. MBT, what about frogs? MBT, what about Merlantians? MBT, what about Nimbles? MBT, what about Ice Barriers? Frogs plays like a bad frog deck, Merlantians builds make my body ache for Azathoth, and I will die a painful death before I play a Nimble unironically. Instead, we're playing it the same way people play Trickstar, as a small, efficient engine surrounded by some of the best cards in the format. Like Trickstar, we have the ability to access extremely powerful plays, provided our hand is decent, but we can get by just fine with a Marincess Seahorse and 4 hand traps. Thankfully, even though there's only one good Marincess as of yet, there's a multitude of ways to find her, including Cynet Mining and Microcoder. We're playing those alongside Cynet Backdoor, which helps our creatures dodge removal and can flex into a one-of Lady Debug, who can search Microcoder and link up into a shooting code to press a turn 1 advantage even farther. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First, we've got our hand traps. 3 Phantasmaze, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Effect Veiler, and 2 Pankratops, who is at the very least hand trap adjacent. After that, we've got 3 Seahorse, 3 Microcoder to link up into Shooting Code, search Cynet Mining and extend plays, and 1 Debug to search off of Backdoor. For spells, we've got 3 Desires, 3 Mining, and 3 Backdoor, and for traps, we've got 3 Infinite Impermanence, 3 of Sky's thematic Marincess Impermanence, which doubles as an AoE Forbidden Lance, 3 Gozen Match, 3 Solemn Strike, and 1... this is embarrassing, I think this is a bug. Why is there a legal card with Win the Game printed on it? In the extra, we've got all 9 Marincess, 3 Marbled Rock, which adds a Marincess back, 3 Coral Anemone, which specials a Marincess back and floats into adding a Marincess back when it goes to the graveyard, and 3 Blue Slug, which, say it with me, adds a Marincess back. We're on Shooting Code Talker, the Water Code Talker, to make it the same turn as Marincesses with Micro, Code Talker Prime for frustratingly bad turn 1 setups, Nightmares, Unicorn, Phoenix, and Cerberus, and Mastarboy. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against the newly released Tianwei series of monsters, non-effect monsters that plus off your opponent controlling an effect monster while you don't. Our hand is pretty good, but unfortunately we are going second. This game is very good for your conceptualization of how the Marincess archetype works. It's better as a finisher once you've simplified the game state. Our opponent's going to go first, setting both a metaverse and a scapegoat. They'll pass it back to us. Cyanide Mining, unfortunately, is just asking to get 2 for 1. We'll do just that. They'll activate Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, then followed up with a metaverse, setting the field spell. We'll set a couple of cards and hope for the best. The rest of the cards in our hand are hand traps, so hopefully we should be able to get something done. Our opponent activates Scapegoat at end step. That's terrible news. They're going to go into a copy of Link Spider. We'll special summon Phantasme. That draws us a Pot of Desires, but draws our opponent 2 cards as well. They'll then go into a Lightning Saber. I'll go ahead and activate Solemn Strike to keep the non-effect monster off their side of the field. We'll activate Goes and Match while they have a Fire monster. They'll pick Fire and go into Enigma Zud, followed by clearing my entire board. We don't have a lot of targets for Effect Veiler, but this is one of them. And now the game state is simplified. Let's see if we can pop off. We draw for turn, and what do we find but a Solemn Strike? We'll start with a Pot of Desires, and there's the Seahorse. We'll go ahead and link up into Blue Slug, use the effect of Blue Slug to return Seahorse, special Seahorse, go into Coral Anemone, special summon Seahorse once again before going into Marbled Rock, returning both the Seahorse to the hand and this copy of Blue Slug to the extra deck. We'll attack into their remaining monsters, set a couple of cards, and pass it back. We have effectively won this game, so our opponent will concede. Our second match is up against Salamangreat, and I apologize, I'll still play against a meta deck for the best of 3, but I promise you 80% of the YGO Pro ladder is on this deck. We're going second, once again, not fantastic, but we do have a pretty good hand. It's got both a hand trap and a Pankratops, as well as this copy of Seahorse, which is always excellent to find without having to minus ourselves off of Cyanide Mining. Our opponent has a Gazelle, so they'll be able to pop off as well. They'll start by normal summoning the Gazelle, and then getting a Spinny in Graveyard. They'll special the Spinny before going into Mirage Stalio. That's a choke point, so we'll activate Infinite Impermanence ASAP. They'll set 1 card and pass it back. Very greedy not setting Roar, but they want to shuffle it to this copy of Phantasmaze. We'll go into Seahorse, go into Blue Slug, use Blue Slug's effect. Our opponent will special summon this copy of Phantasmaze, shuffle back the copy of Roar so they can get an Effect Veiler and a copy of Salamangreat Circle. We'll activate Anemone's effect, they'll activate Effect Veiler, we'll chain Cyanide Backdoor, which means that we'll be able to add a Microcoder to our hand. We'll go into Battle Phase, attacking into Phantasmaze, they'll activate Salamangreat Rage, we'll chain Pankratops, they'll chain Phantasmaze, and suddenly we're going to have to out this card. We'll set 2 and pass it back to our opponent. Our opponent draws for turn, it's a Foolish Burial. They'll start by activating Salamangreat Circle, getting a copy of Gazelle to hand. They'll activate Gazelle's effect, we'll activate Goes and Match, they pick Fire, wisely. They send a copy of Jack Jaguar and bring back Spinny, they'll go into a Sunlight Wolf, we'll Solemn Strike it, and then they'll activate Foolish Burial for Foul, use Foul's effect to reset this copy of Salamangreat Circle, and dare us to OTK. We draw a copy of Solemn Strike for turn, that's fantastic. We'll use Anemone's effect, return off Cyanide Backdoor, we'll use the effect of Marbled Rock and the effect of Anemone to bring the Seahorse back to hand and the Anemone back to the extra. We'll link summon this copy of Blue Slug, normal summon this copy of Seahorse, and then use Microcoder to go into Shooting Code Talker, adding a copy of Cyanide Backdoor and getting in for a lot of damage. We'll set 2 cards and pass it back to our opponent. For turn, they draw a copy of Effect Veiler, just a little too late. They'll activate Salamangreat Circle for a copy of Gazelle. We'll activate Solemn Strike on said Gazelle, and that's going to be the actual end of the game. Alright, so it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent is on Chaos Dragon, a top 3 deck from this format, and we're going first. This potentially bodes very poorly for us. We were able to beat our other 2 opponents by virtue of interrupting their turn 1 play and then establishing our extremely efficient Seahorse loop. Inversely, Thunder Dragon plays extremely well through hand traps and mounts incredible offensive pressure. We're going to start by normal summoning a copy of Seahorse and going into Blue Slug. We'll then use the effect of Blue Slug to recur Seahorse. Our opponent will chain a Bolt Thunder Dragon to get it out of the way. We'll then special summon this copy of Seahorse, go into Anemone, use its effect to return the Seahorse to the board before going into Marbled Rock, using the Grave effect of Coral Anemone, and using Marbled Rock to return the Coral Anemone back to the extra deck. We'll set 2 and hope for the best. Our opponent's going to activate Thunder Dragon a couple of times, which can only mean one thing. There he is, Leviair. They'll also activate the effect of Bolt Thunder Dragon. We'll negate the Leviair at the very least, but afterwards they can go ahead and activate Avian to get back Bolt, use Jackalope to special summon itself, and then special summon an Aeon Prime. We'll then activate the effect of Nessie. We hit it, American Sniper, but unfortunately we hit that and the Bigfoot, which allows them to OTK immediately afterwards. So it's time for game 2, and we've elected to go first, though based on this opener, we maybe should have picked second. I mean, look how good this is, provided our opponent commits to any play. Unfortunately, since we're going first, all we're going to be able to do is establish the Seahorse loop. We'll go into a Blue Slug, activate the effect of Blue Slug to return this copy of Seahorse, go into Coral Anemone, our opponent will activate Phantasmaze, we'll then activate the effect of Coral Anemone to get back Seahorse, go into Marbled Rock, return this copy of Seahorse and this copy of Blue Slug. We'll set a copy of Infip and hope for the best. Our opponent draws for turn. They'll start by activating Thunder Dragon, then activate the effect of Light of Sekka. We'll Ash in response, but boy does that feel bad to Ash, because of course it has a Grave effect. They'll then normal summon a copy of Phantom Skyblaster, we'll activate Infip, they'll activate activate Phantasmaze and then summon a bunch of tokens. They'll go into a copy of Link Spider, which allows us to special summon our own copy of Phantasmaze, and what do we draw into but a copy of Marincess Wave? Now, any other deck would end their turn here. But God, Thunder Chaos Dragon is just so resilient. They go into an LP, a copy of Eclipse Wyvern, a copy of Leviair, a copy of Agarpan. They're going to trigger the effect of Eclipse Wyvern, go into Hot Red. Oh God, this is just fantastic. They'll wipe the majority of our board before going into a second Skulldette, triggering the effect of Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. Jeez Louise. Then activating Skulldette to special summon a copy of Bolt Thunder Dragon, going into Super Bolt, triggering the grave effect of Bolt and the effect of Diabolos. Yikes. They'll end on an Aeon that gets pumped off of a Nessie. The Nessie's going to add a copy of Jackalope. We trigger the Jackalope. That allows them to tribute it to put one of the cards in our hand back in our deck and make, dear Lord, a second Super Bolt. Well, we can potentially drag this game out. We'll try to add back Marincess Wave. This will trigger the Hot Red, which means we can now use the Seahorse to go through the motions again, but making a second copy of Marbled Rock doesn't really do anything here. We'll return the Seahorse and attack into, well, what we can, I suppose. But unfortunately, we're still staring down both Diabolos and 2 copies of Superbolt. They'll go into a copy of White Dragon Wyvern, use Avian to get back Eon, go into Cypher Dragon, go into Dark Matter. They'll activate the effect of Dark Matter, we banish a whole bunch of hand traps, and then they'll start attacking. We can preserve one of our monsters for 1 additional attack, but unfortunately we're going to have to draw something amazing here. What do we draw for turn? But a Pot of Desires, that is pretty good, but unfortunately what we draw will only allow us to go through the loop 1 additional time. A Lady Debug is going to eat our normal summon, so we're not going to be able to use it. We go into Marbled Rock again, adding this copy of Wave back to our hand alongside a copy of Seahorse, but really this doesn't do anything particularly exciting. They draw into a copy of Jackalope, they'll activate it in order to get a copy of Nessie to their side of the board, go to battle phase, and I believe this is all she wrote. We'll Wave, targeting this copy of Dark Matter, but it still has 4,000 attack. So we're back with the deck. There's a reasonable amount of stuff to think about, so let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, it's a super efficient engine. Honestly, anyone who saw Ale play this archetype probably had alarm bells ringing in their head. It feels very much like comparable setups in Striker, Salamandrate, and Trickstar, low risk and medium reward. 2, the engine basically recurs itself ad infinitum. Since you're adding a third of it back every end step, if you never flex to shooting code, you're able to repeat the process over 4 times. And 3, man, has Phantasmaze ever been a boon to decks that just sort of lack a win condition. He attacks, he draws cards, he negates targeted removal. God, I love him. He's right at home in this strategy. And the cons. 1, the deck is definitely hurting for a lack of playables. It's one of those archetypes where you can just feel if it had like just one more good card, Jesus Christ, would it be broken. As it stands, a lack of synergistic options makes it feel like you're 1 power trap and 1 reasonable monster away from playable. And 2, while there are comparisons to Striker, Salads, and Trickstar, it is certainly not as efficient, consistent, or powerful as any of those decks. Why go +1 with Marincess when you could go +4 with Striker? And 3, while I'll still defend this version over a Toad version that's worse than Paleo, or an Atlantean version that's worse than Danger Orchist, it kind of does need something linear to do. All in all, I like the deck, and it's clearly going to be good, but just like Ouchie's other deck, not until it's got another couple of playables under its belt. So that's that. I hope I did a good enough job pronouncing Auralie's name, even though I'm losing my voice. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/mbtygo every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a certain deck or archetype you want me to take a look at on a future episode of this show, let me know in the comments section below and I'll do my best. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.